The most ignored horse at the auction was sold for just $200, skinny, exhausted, and abandoned, while everyone turned away in disdain. But when the new owner led him to the corral and noticed a hidden detail on his body, his heart began to race. His hands started to tremble, and everyone around fell into complete silence when they realized what that horse truly was. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The sun was a white hole in the Texas sky, and Jasper Reed felt every bit of its heavy, hot weight. He stood at the edge of the dusty fairgrounds in Abilene, the noise of the horse auction buzzing around him like angry flies. His fingers, deep in his jeans pocket, touched the worn bills. $200, that was all. That was everything. He spoke to the empty air beside him, a low habit born from too many solitary days. "Shouldn't have come, Jasper. Nothing here for you." But he had to come. The small ranch outside Amarillo was quiet. Too quiet. The fences needed mending, the barn roof sagged, and he needed another pair of legs to help with the few cattle he had left. A good, solid horse was a partner, a chance. This auction was his last idea. He walked past pens of beautiful, strong animals. Their coats shone. Their prices were in the thousands. Jasper's heart sank lower with each step. "Ain't nothing ever that simple or that good," he muttered, turning away from the main ring. In a far corner, away from the crowd, stood a single pen. A brown gelding stood inside, head hanging so low his nose almost touched the dirt. His ribs pushed against his dull coat like fence rails. He didn't lift his head when Jasper approached. Two men leaned on the pen rails, laughing. The bigger one, red-faced and sweating, jabbed a thumb at the horse. "Look at that, Bill. Practically paying us to take him off the lot. Useless as a screen door on a submarine." The thinner man, Bill, chuckled. "Eats more than he's worth. Lazy, too. Won't pull a cart, won't follow a lead. Just stands there." Jasper stopped a few feet away. He looked at the horse. The animal's eyes were half closed, empty of any spirit. A piece of tape on the rail said "Dusty" in faded letters. The big man noticed Jasper. "You looking? He's for sale. Cheap. We just want him gone." "How cheap?" Jasper asked, his voice quiet. The man, Hank, looked Jasper up and down, seeing his old boots and worn hat. "For you? 200? A steal," Bill snickered. "Yeah, a steal. You're stealing our problem." Jasper's hand clenched around the money in his pocket. $200. His last $200. For this? He stared at the horse named Dusty. The horse took a slow, shallow breath. He looked finished, beaten. A voice in Jasper's head, the one that always expected the worst, said, "Asterisk, just a tired old horse, that's all. Don't go making a story out of it. Stories always end bad." But another feeling, older and deeper, stirred. It was the memory of his grandfather's voice. "Asterisk. Sometimes, son, the one everyone overlooks needs a chance the most." He looked from the laughing men to the broken horse. He didn't see a tool for the ranch. He saw a creature that had given up. "All right," Jasper said, the word feeling too big for his dry throat. He pulled the money from his pocket. $200. He held it out. Hank snatched the bills with a grin. "Pleasure doing business. He's all yours. Good luck getting him to move." They walked away, still laughing. Jasper was alone with the horse. He unlatched the pen gate and stepped inside. Dusty didn't move. Jasper reached out slowly, letting the horse smell his hand. He didn't touch him yet. "Well," Jasper said softly to the horse this time, "you're coming home with me." The drive back to his ranch took over an hour. Dusty stood quietly in the old trailer, not shifting his weight, just enduring. Jasper watched him in the rearview mirror, that knot of doubt heavy in his stomach. Had he just thrown away his last hope on a lost cause? When they got home, Jasper led Dusty to a clean stall in the small, quiet barn. The horse walked slowly, each step careful. Jasper filled a bucket with fresh, cool water and hung it inside. He forked in some of his best hay. Dusty looked at the water, then at Jasper. Slowly, he lowered his head and drank. He drank for a long, long time. Jasper leaned on the stall door, watching. The horse finished drinking and took a mouthful of hay. He chewed, still standing with that same defeated slump. "We'll get you cleaned up tomorrow," Jasper said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Get some good food in you. You're safe now." Dusty's ear twitched in his direction. It was a small movement. Maybe it meant nothing, but Jasper saw it. He gave a single, slow nod. That night, as he lay in his bed, the ranch was no longer quiet in a lonely way. It was quiet in a waiting way. He had spent his last dollar. He had no plan. All he had was a skinny, broken-down horse in his barn. He tapped the heel of his boot 3 times on the floorboard beside his bed, the old habit from childhood. For what, he didn't know. For luck. For something. Outside, under a blanket of a million stars, the horse named Dusty stood in a clean stall with a full belly, and for the first time in years, he slept without starting awake at every sound. The morning after Dusty arrived, Jasper was up before the sun. He carried 2 buckets out to the barn. One had warm water mixed with a little molasses. The other held a special mix of grain he couldn't really spare. He tapped his boot heel 3 times on the barn's wooden step and pushed the door open. Dusty was standing in his stall just as he'd left him, but his head was up and his ears pointed toward Jasper as he entered. "Morning," Jasper said, his voice rough with sleep. He poured the grain into a tub in the stall. Dusty looked at it, then at Jasper. He took 1 step, then 2, and lowered his head to eat. It wasn't the rush of a hungry horse. It was slow, testing, like he wasn't sure the food was really for him. "It's yours," Jasper said softly. "All yours." While Dusty ate, Jasper got his brush box. He unlatched the stall door and stepped inside. He moved slowly, letting the horse see every move. "Gonna get some of this dirt off you," Jasper said, more to hear a voice than anything. "Can't even tell what color you are." He started with a soft rubber curry, making gentle circles on Dusty's neck. Dirt and old, dead hair fell away in clumps. Dusty stopped eating. He stood very still. His skin twitched under Jasper's hand, but he didn't move away. "That's it," Jasper whispered. "Just cleaning up." He worked for a long time. The sun rose and poured light through the barn window. A brown coat began to show under the grayish dirt. It was matted and dull, but it was there. Jasper moved down the horse's shoulder, talking in a steady, low hum about nothing. The weather, the price of feed, the quiet of the ranch. Dusty began to lean into the brushes. A deep sigh shook his frame. His head lowered. "You remember what it's like to feel good, don't you?" Jasper said. "I think you do." He switched to a softer brush for the horse's legs. Dusty was nervous about this. He lifted his left front leg just a little, his muscles tight. "Easy now," Jasper said. He knelt down in the clean straw. "Just your leg. Nothing to hurt you." He brushed gently down the leg, flicking away caked mud. His fingers felt through the hair, checking for cuts or swelling. High up, behind the knee, his brush caught on something. It wasn't a tangle of hair. It was something flat and smooth on the skin. Jasper stopped humming. He used his fingers to part the brown hair. There was a patch of skin, cleaner than the rest. In the middle of it was a mark. It was a perfect sunburst shape with a single straight line through the middle. It was burned into the skin. A brand. Jasper's hand froze. His breath left his body in a quiet rush. He knew that brand. Every person who knew anything about barrel racing in the state of Texas knew that brand. It was a secret mark used only for one family of horses. It was the brand of a legend. "No," Jasper whispered, the words sticking in his dry throat. He leaned closer, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wiped the spot with his thumb. It was real. It was clean. It was unmistakable. He sat back on his heels, his mind racing. Midnight Sun, the champion stallion. He had won every major race. His picture had been in all the papers. Then, years ago, he vanished. There was a trailer accident, a fire. No one ever found the horse. They said he must have died. The owner, a rich man from Fort Worth, had offered a reward of $100,000 for information. Then $200,000. Then it just became a sad story. A horse worth millions of dollars. Gone. And here he was, in a dusty stall on a failing ranch, called Dusty. Jasper looked up. Dusty had turned his head and was looking down at him. His eyes, no longer dull, held a quiet knowing. This horse understood his own name, his real name. Jasper stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. He put a shaking hand on the horse's neck, right over the brand he couldn't see. "They didn't know," Jasper said to the horse, his voice barely a sound. "Those men, they had a treasure, and they called you useless." Dusty blew out a soft breath, warm against Jasper's shirt. The world outside the barn, The broken fence, the empty bank account, the lonely days. It all fell away. For a moment, there was only this secret, humming in the space between them. Jasper's practical mind fought its way back. This changed everything. This was danger. This was a dream. This was an impossible truth standing on four thin legs. He had to be smart. He had to be careful. "Your secret's safe with me," Jasper murmured, his fingers tracing the hidden symbol once more before he let the hair fall back over it. "You're Dusty here, just Dusty." But as he left the stall to get more hay, his hands wouldn't stop trembling. He had bought a horse for $200, and by some miracle or some mistake of the universe, he had brought a king home. The secret was a weight in Jasper's chest. For 3 days, he moved through his chores like a man in a dream. He would brush Dusty, his fingers always drifting to that hidden spot behind the leg, just to make sure it was still real. The horse was improving. His coat began to shine. He met Jasper at the stall door every morning, his eyes bright and alert. But Jasper jumped at every truck that passed on the distant road. He stopped going into town for coffee. He felt the need to be on the ranch, to stand between Dusty and the world. On the 4th morning, the sound he was dreading came. Not a passing truck, but the crunch of tires slowing, turning into his gravel driveway. Jasper was fixing a hinge on the corral gate. He looked up, a cold feeling in his stomach. It was an old green pickup truck. Hank was driving. Bill sat beside him. The truck stopped in front of the house. Both doors opened. Hank slammed his door shut and stood with his hands on his hips, looking around the quiet ranch. His eyes landed on Jasper and then drifted to the barn. Jasper put his hammer down slowly. He walked toward them, wiping his hands on his jeans. He stopped a few feet away. "Morning," Jasper said, his voice flat. "Reed," Hank said, not smiling. "Came to check on our investment." "Your investment?" "That horse," Bill chimed in, pointing a thumb toward the barn. "Dusty, we've been hearing things." Jasper's heart thumped once, hard. "Hearing what?" Hank took a step closer. "Heard you got yourself a real nice-looking horse out here all of a sudden. Heard he's filling out, shining up." He narrowed his eyes. "Funny, what a little care can do. Makes a man wonder what he really sold." "I bought a sick horse," Jasper said, keeping his words even. "I'm feeding him, that's all." "That's all?" Hank let out a short, harsh laugh. "See, Bill, I told you. He's playing dumb." "We think you knew something," Bill said, his voice less sure than Hank's. "That day, we think you tricked us." Anger, hot and sudden, pushed aside some of Jasper's fear. "Tricked you? You two were laughing. You called him useless. You couldn't wait to be rid of him for $200. Hank's face flushed redder. "Maybe we made a mistake. A man can change his mind. We want the horse back." "No." The word came out of Jasper faster and harder than he expected. Hank blinked. "What do you mean, no?" "We'll give you your money back. $300. We'll be generous." "He's not for sale," Jasper said. "He's my horse. You sold him. I bought him. It's done." Hank took another step, now right in Jasper's space. Jasper could smell his sour breath. "I don't think you understand. We're being nice about this. We can get the sheriff out here. Say you stole him." "You have a bill of sale?" Jasper asked. He had it, folded in a drawer in the house. It had both their messy signatures. Hank waved a hand. "Paper don't mean nothing. We're saying you saw a valuable animal and you tricked 2 honest men. Who do you think they'll believe?" Jasper thought of the brand hidden under Dusty's leg, the proof of unbelievable value. His secret felt like it was screaming to be seen. He forced himself to stand still. "He's not valuable," Jasper lied. "He's just a horse, my horse. Now I got work to do." He turned to walk back to the corral, a dismissive move he hoped seemed confident. His back tingled. "This ain't over, Reed," Hank shouted after him. "You're sitting on something that ain't yours. We'll be back, and we won't be asking nice next time." Jasper heard their truck doors slam. The engine roared, and gravel spun under the tires as they sped away. He didn't turn around until the sound of the truck had faded completely. His hands were clenched into fists so tight his nails dug into his palms. He let out a long, shaky breath. A soft nicker came from the barn. Dusty's head was hanging over the stall door, watching him. The horse's ears were pricked forward, his expression concerned. Jasper walked to the barn, his legs feeling weak. He leaned his forehead against Dusty's neck, the solid warmth of him a comfort. "They know," Jasper whispered into the horse's coat. "They don't know what they know, but they know something, and they're coming back." Dusty nudged Jasper's shoulder gently with his nose. Jasper looked out the barn door at the empty driveway. The quiet ranch didn't feel safe anymore. It felt like a target. Hank's words echoed in his head. Asterisk. We won't be asking nice next time. The secret was no longer just his to keep. It had become a thing to defend. Sleep would not come. Jasper lay in his bed, staring at the dark ceiling. Every sound was a threat. The creak of the old house settling, the whisper of the wind, the distant call of a coyote. Each one snapped his eyes open, his heart racing. He got up. He walked to the window and looked at the barn, a dark shape under the moon. Was Dusty safe? He had checked the stall latch 3 times before bed. He had even dragged an old piece of lumber to lean against the barn door from the inside. Asterisk. Just a tired old horse, asterisk, he tried to tell himself. But the thought didn't work anymore. Dusty was a secret that was drawing trouble closer. He pulled on his boots and jacket. He didn't tap his heels. He just walked out into the cold night, a heavy flashlight in his hand. He would check, just one more time. The barn was quiet and warm, smelling of hay and horses. Dusty was lying down in the deep straw, but he lifted his head when Jasper entered. He made a soft, low sound. "It's just me," Jasper whispered. "All's well." He sat down on an upturned bucket near the stall, the flashlight at his feet. He would just sit for a while, just until he felt sure. The next thing he knew, his head jerked up. He had fallen asleep. A hard, sharp sound had woken him. A metallic asterisk, clank asterisk. Dusty was on his feet now, ears pinned back, head high. He stared at the barn's main door and snorted. Jasper was on his feet in a second, his blood running cold. He grabbed the flashlight but didn't turn it on. He moved silently to a small, dirty window that faced the driveway. Outside, in the faint moonlight, he saw a truck. No lights. It was the green truck. 2 shadows moved away from it, toward the barn. His breath caught. They were here, Hank and Bill. He heard their voices, low and tense, right outside the barn door. "The latch is just a hook on the inside," Hank's voice hissed. "Slide that wire through the crack. Loop it." "I'm trying," Bill whispered back. "I can't see nothing." Jasper's mind raced. He could hide. He could let them take the horse and call the sheriff after. But the thought of their hands on Dusty, leading him back into that trailer, made something fierce rise up in his chest. He was not a fighter, but he was a man on his own land, protecting what was his. He took a deep, silent breath. He flipped the switch on the heavy flashlight. A beam of blinding white light shattered the darkness just as the barn door creaked open a few inches. It lit up Hank's surprised, guilty face, his hand still on a bent piece of wire. "Get off my property," Jasper said. His voice did not sound like his own. It was low and steady. Hank stumbled back, shielding his eyes. "Reed, what are you doing?" "I said get off my property," Jasper repeated, stepping forward, the light held firm. "You're trespassing, and you're trying to steal my horse." Bill appeared behind Hank, looking scared. "We weren't stealing. We were just checking." "In the middle of the night? With a tool to pick the lock?" Jasper took another step. The light shook a little in his hand, but he kept it aimed at them. "I will call the sheriff right now. You want that?" Hank's fear twisted into anger. He squinted against the light. "You got no proof of nothing. It's your word against ours. You're the one hiding $1 million horse." The words hung in the cold air. Jasper felt them like a punch. So they did suspect. They just didn't have proof. "He's a $200 horse," Jasper said, forcing the words out. "And you sold him. Now leave, before this gets worse." For a long moment, no one moved. Hank glared, his fists clenched. Bill looked from Hank to Jasper and back, shifting his weight. Finally, Hank spat on the ground. "This ain't finished, you'll see. A man like you can't hold on to something like that." They turned and walked back to their truck, their shapes swallowed by the darkness. The engine started, and this time they drove away slowly, without spinning the tires. Jasper stood there until the red taillights disappeared. Then his shoulders slumped. The flashlight felt as heavy as a log. He turned it off. In the sudden dark, a warm nose touched his elbow. Dusty had pushed his stall door open. The latch was still secure. He had just reached over it. The horse was standing beside him, breathing softly. Jasper dropped a hand onto the horse's strong neck. He was shaking all over. "They're gone," he said, mostly to himself. He looked at the horse, who stood calmly beside him in the dark barn. "But they'll be back, or someone else will." He led Dusty back into his stall and latched it properly. He knew the truth now, sitting in his bones like a chill he couldn't warm away. He could not do this alone. The phone felt heavy in Jasper's hand. The morning sun did nothing to warm the cold fear that had settled in him since the night before. He stood in his quiet kitchen, staring at the list of numbers pinned to the wall. One was for Mitchell Veterinary Services, Lubbock. He had called them once, years ago, when a calf was born sideways. The vet who came had been calm and knew what to do. He didn't like asking for help. It felt like admitting he was failing. But Dusty needed more than just feed and a brush now. He needed a doctor, and maybe Jasper needed someone else to know the secret, the right someone. His finger tapped the numbers on the old phone. It rang 4 times. "Mitchell Veterinary, this is Clara." The voice was clear and steady. It was a voice used to delivering news, good or bad. Yeah, this is Jasper Reed, out on the old Miller Road past Amarillo. I've got a horse. He needs a checkup." "All right, Mr. Reed. Is it an emergency? Is the horse colicking or lame?" "No, nothing like that. He's new, and I want to make sure he's all right. There's some things I'd like you to see." He struggled for the right words. There was a pause on the other end. He could hear pages turning. "I have time this afternoon, around 2 o'clock. Will that work?" "Yes," Jasper said quickly. "That works." "See you then." The line went dead. Jasper hung up the phone. He had done it. Now he had to wait. Just after 2 o'clock, a white truck with a vet box in the back came up the driveway. Jasper watched from the barn door. A woman with auburn hair and a ponytail got out. She wore clean jeans and work boots. She grabbed a large metal case. He walked out to meet her. "Clara Mitchell?" "That's me. You must be Jasper." She offered a small smile. Her eyes were a calm green. They took in his face, then drifted past him to the ranch. She didn't seem to judge what she saw. "Where's your patient?" "In here." He led her into the barn. Dusty stood in his stall, ears forward, watching the new person. "Well, hello there," Clara said, her voice softening. She put her case down and approached the stall slowly. She didn't reach out to pet him. She just looked. "You said he's new?" "Bought him at the Abilene sale a little over a week ago." Clara nodded, still looking at Dusty. "He's underweight, but I can see he's put on a few pounds already. Coat's starting to bloom. You've been doing right by him." She opened the stall door and stepped inside. "May I?" "Please," Jasper said. Clara moved with quiet confidence. She ran her hands over Dusty's neck, his back, his legs. She looked in his eyes and mouth. She listened to his heart and lungs with a stethoscope. Dusty stood perfectly still for her, his head turned to watch what she was doing. "He's a good-natured boy," she murmured, more to the horse than to Jasper. A little tense in the shoulders, but nothing major. "He's been through some stress, but he's healing." She was humming a tune softly as she worked. Jasper stood by the door, his arms crossed tight over his chest. Clara moved to the front left leg, feeling down the tendon. Her fingers brushed the hidden spot. She paused. Her humming stopped. She parted the hair with her fingers. Jasper held his breath. Clara looked at the brand for a long time. She didn't gasp. She didn't say anything. She just looked. Then she slowly stood up and turned to Jasper. Her expression was serious, but not shocked. "You know what this is," she stated. It wasn't a question. Jasper nodded once. "I do. The Midnight Sun brand. It's not one you forget." She stepped out of the stall and closed the door. She looked him right in the eyes. "Who else knows?" "2 men, Hank Dawson and Bill. They sold him to me. They didn't see the brand, but they know he's different now. They came back. They tried to take him last night." Clara listened, her head tilted. "What did you do?" "I scared them off with a flashlight. Told them I'd call the sheriff." He looked down at his boots. "I can't do this by myself anymore. I'm afraid they'll hurt him. Or just take him." Clara was quiet for a moment. She looked at Dusty, who was nosing at the hay in his stall. Then she looked back at Jasper. What do you want to do, Jasper? The question surprised him. I want to keep him safe. Not sell him? She asked gently. That brand is worth more money than this ranch has ever seen. Jasper's eyes went to Dusty. The horse looked back at him, trusting and calm. I didn't buy a brand. I bought a horse. A real smile touched Clara's lips just for a second. Okay then, let's keep him safe. She picked up her metal case. The first thing we need is proper documentation, a full health record from today. And we need to be sure. There's one more test we can do. What test? Most valuable horses have a microchip, she said. A tiny computer chip placed under the skin. It has all their information. If he has one and it scans, then there's no doubt. It's legal proof. Jasper felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in days. A flicker of hope. You can do that? I have the scanner right here. She patted her case. It's simple. It doesn't hurt him. We can do it right now. Jasper looked from the capable woman to the horse that had changed everything. For the first time, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. He wasn't alone. All right, he said. Let's do it. Clara unzipped her metal case. She took out a device that looked like a small gray television remote. It had a little screen on it. This is the scanner, she said, her voice calm and quiet. The chip is usually here, on the left side of the neck, under the skin. Jasper watched, his hands clenched at his sides. Dusty stood still, his ears flicking back and forth between them. Clara switched the scanner on. It made a low beep. She held it flat against Dusty's neck, near his mane. She moved it slowly in a small circle. For a moment, there was only the sound of the horse breathing. Then, a sharp, high asterisk beep beep asterisk came from the scanner. A line of green numbers and letters appeared on the little screen. Clara's eyes went to the screen. She read it. She did not smile or frown. She just read it. Then she held the screen out so Jasper could see it. He leaned in. The words were small but clear. There was a long identification number. There was a name. Asterisk, Midnight Sun, asterisk. There was a date of birth. There was the name of a ranch in Fort Worth, Texas. It's him, Clara said softly. The chip scanner doesn't lie, Jasper. This is him. Jasper stared at the screen. He knew it was true. He had known since he saw the brand. But this was different. This wasn't a mark he could hide with hair. This was a fact, stored in a tiny machine. It was a fact that could not be argued with. He looked from the screen to Dusty's face. The horse nudged his arm as if asking for a treat. So it's real, Jasper said. The words felt strange. It's more than real. It's legal proof, Clara said, turning the scanner off. This number is registered in a national database. It's like a social security number for a horse. It proves his name, his age, his breeding. It proves he belongs to the estate of his original owner. She looked at Jasper. And it proves that Hank and Bill could not have legally owned him. A horse like this would have sale papers, big ones. They didn't have any of that. A hard knot in Jasper's chest began to loosen. So, he's mine, legally? Clara thought for a moment. It's complicated. The law would say he's the property of the original owner's estate, but you have a bill of sale. You paid money for him in good faith, and the men who sold him to you had no right to him. With this chip proof, the estate would likely be happy to know he's alive and safe. They might make a deal with you, or they might just let you keep him to avoid a long fight. She put the scanner back in her case. The important thing is, Hank and Bill have no claim. None. This chip proves they were selling a stolen animal. They won't want the sheriff looking at that too closely. Jasper let out a long, slow breath. He put a hand on Dusty's neck. The horse leaned into the touch. You're safe, he whispered to Dusty. Then he looked at Clara. Thank you. Clara closed her case. Don't thank me yet. This proof is your shield, but it also changes things. Now you know what you have. You have to decide what to do with that knowledge. Jasper nodded. The fear of the last few days was fading, replaced by a new kind of pressure. Before, the secret was a scary, hidden thing. Now it was a solid, provable fact, a fact worth millions of dollars. Clara took a notepad from her pocket and began writing. I'm making an official health record for him. I'll note his improved condition. I will not note the brand or the chip scan unless you tell me to. That's your information to share. She looked up at him. "You need to think, Jasper. Talk to a lawyer. Be smart." "I don't know any lawyers," he said. "I don't know the first thing about any of this." "I know a good one in Lubbock," Clara said. She finished writing and tore the page out, handing it to him. "Her name is Susan Bailey. She's honest. She'll tell you what your choices are." She picked up her case. "My job is the horse, and he's doing great. You've done a good job." She started walking toward her truck, then turned. "Call me if you need anything. If those men come back, you call the sheriff first, then call me, okay?" "Okay," Jasper said. He watched her white truck disappear down the road. The ranch was quiet again, but it felt different. He walked back into the barn. Dusty whickered a hello. Jasper held up the health record Clara had written. He looked at the scanner's screen in his memory. He looked at the horse. He had proof. It was the strongest card he could hold. For the first time, he felt like he had ground to stand on. He wasn't just a poor cowboy defending a secret. He was a man with evidence, but the evidence didn't make the choice for him. It just made the choice real. The paper with the microchip number felt like it was burning a hole in Jasper's pocket. He had proof. He had a name for the lawyer in Lubbock. He had a choice. For 2 days, he did his chores in a fog. He would fix a fence post and his mind would wander. Asterisk, $2 million. Maybe 3. The ranch paid off. A new truck. A new roof. Security. He would look over at Dusty, grazing peacefully in the small paddock. The horse had filled out, his coat a rich brown in the sun. He looked up often, checking to see where Jasper was. One afternoon, Jasper sat on the porch steps, a cup of cold coffee in his hand. Dusty wandered over from the paddock and stood nearby, swishing his tail at flies. "What would you do?" Jasper asked the horse, his voice tired. Dusty just blinked his large, dark eyes. Jasper's mind was a war. On one side were numbers, big numbers. They whispered of an end to worry. He could pay the bank. He could fix the leaking irrigation line. He could sleep through the night without adding up bills in his head. He remembered the feel of the $200 in his hand at the auction, his last everything. That fear was a real thing, a cold stone in his gut. The money from selling Dusty would melt that stone forever. On the other side was a feeling. It was the feeling of Dusty's head resting heavy on his shoulder during grooming. It was the soft nicker that greeted him every morning. It was the way the horse followed him around the corral, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He thought about Hank and Bill. They saw Dusty and saw only money. They saw a thing to be traded. Jasper had seen a creature that needed saving. If he sold Dusty now, for millions, was he any different? He would just have a higher price. His grandfather's face came into his mind. A kind, weathered face under a big hat. "A man's word is his bond, Jasper," the old man had said once after a neighbor tried to cheat him on a horse trade. "But a man's heart is his truth. Money talks loud, but it's a hollow sound. It don't keep you warm at night. It don't look at you with trust." Jasper shook his head. "It was different for you, Grandpa. You weren't about to lose the land." But the words felt weak, even in his own mind. His phone rang, startling him. It was Clara. "Jasper, just checking in. How are you holding up?" He let out a long breath. "Thinking. A lot of thinking." "I figured. Have you called the lawyer?" "Not yet." There was a pause on the other end. He could hear clinic sounds behind her, a dog barking, a phone ringing. "Jasper," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "This isn't just about the law. This is about you, and it's about the horse. What does your gut say?" He looked at Dusty. The horse had come closer and was now nuzzling Jasper's empty hand, looking for a treat. Jasper's fingers closed around the soft, velvety nose. "My gut is all mixed up," he admitted. "One minute it says, take the money and breathe easy. The next minute it says, this is my friend." Clara was quiet for a moment. "When I looked at that chip scan, I saw a famous horse. But when I look at him, I just see a good horse who's finally happy. He's not the champion anymore, Jasper. He's Dusty. He belongs here." Her words landed right in the center of his chest. Asterisk, he belongs here. "If I keep him," Jasper said slowly, "the trouble doesn't just go away. Hank and Bill, the secret, it's all still there." "Maybe," Clara said. "Or maybe the way to end the trouble is to stop having a secret. You have the proof. You could be the one to tell the story." Jasper's mind, which had been chasing in circles, suddenly went still. Stop having a secret. tell the story himself. The idea was terrifying, but it was also strong. "I need to think some more," he said. "That's all right. Take your time. Just remember, you're not deciding for you, you're deciding for both of you." They said goodbye. Jasper put the phone down. Dusty nudged his hand again, then rested his chin on Jasper's knee, his weight warm and solid. Jasper scratched between the horse's ears. He imagined loading Dusty into a trailer, sending him away to a new owner, a stranger. He imagined coming back to a silent barn. He imagined the bank check in his hand. It felt like ashes. Then he imagined standing up, with Clara and the proof beside him, and telling the world the truth. He imagined Dusty staying right here, in this paddock, for the rest of his days. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something else, something that felt like peace. The choice was becoming clear. It was the hardest choice he had ever faced. But for the first time, one path felt right, and the other felt like a betrayal. The call to Clara was short. "I've decided," Jasper said when she answered. "I'm not selling him. I want to tell the story, my way." There was a long pause on the other end. Then Clara said, "Okay, what do you need me to do?" 2 days later, a small, dusty sedan came up the driveway. A woman with a notebook got out. She introduced herself as Sarah from the Amarillo Gazette. Clara was already there, standing with Jasper near the corral. Dusty was inside, looking curious at the new person. "Thank you for coming out," Jasper said, his voice tighter than usual. "Thank you for the story," Sarah said, her eyes already on the horse. "You said you had proof this is Midnight Sun?" Jasper nodded to Clara. Clara held up the microchip scanner. She turned it on and walked to Dusty. The familiar asterisk beep beep asterisk sounded. She showed the screen to the reporter. Sarah's eyes widened. She wrote quickly in her notebook. "And the brand?" Jasper stepped forward. He lifted Dusty's left front leg and carefully parted the hair. The sunburst brand was clear. Sarah took a picture. "Can you tell me what happened? From the beginning?" Sarah asked. Jasper took a deep breath. He started talking. He told her about the auction in Abilene, his last $200, the 2 laughing men, the skinny, sad horse. He told her about bringing Dusty home, cleaning him, finding the mark. He spoke slowly, his words simple. He told her about the men coming back, the threats, the night they tried to break into the barn. He told her about calling Clara and the chip that told the truth. Sarah listened, writing fast. "And now? What now? The original owner's estate could claim him. You could be a very rich man if you sold him." Jasper looked at Dusty, then at Clara. She gave him a small, sure nod. "I talked to the lawyer, Miss Bailey. She contacted the estate. They're just glad he's alive. They've agreed to let me keep him. They don't want to fight either." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "I'm not selling him. He's home. He stays here." "Just like that?" Sarah asked. "You're walking away from a fortune?" Jasper shook his head. "I'm not walking away from anything. I'm staying right here with him. Any money that comes from his story, from people wanting to write about him or take his picture, that money will go to a charity for horses that are rescued, like he was. That's the agreement." Sarah stopped writing for a moment and looked at him. "Why?" The question hung in the air. Jasper walked over to the corral fence. Dusty came right to him, lowering his head. Jasper scratched the white spot on the horse's forehead. "Because he's not a thing to be sold," Jasper said, his voice growing stronger. "He was lost. Now he's found. I bought a friend for $200. That's the only part of this story that matters to me." Sarah smiled. She closed her notebook. "I think that's everything I need. This will be in tomorrow's paper. Are you ready for that? Everyone will know." Jasper looked out at his quiet land, then at the horse beside him. The secret was finally leaving him. It felt like setting down a heavy burden. "I'm ready," he said. After Sarah left, the ranch was quiet again. Clara packed up her things. "You did a good thing today, Jasper. A brave thing." "It doesn't feel brave," he said. "It just feels right." Clara got into her truck. "Call me tomorrow, after the paper comes out." He waved as she drove away. The sun was starting to go down, painting the sky in colors of orange and purple. Jasper leaned on the corral fence. Dusty stood beside him, peaceful. The fear was gone. The hiding was over. A new kind of quiet settled over the ranch. It was the quiet of a truth finally told. The newspaper landed on Hank Dawson's kitchen table with a heavy slap. His wife had brought it in from the mailbox. The picture was right on the front page of the local section. Jasper Reed, a horse, and a woman vet. Hank read the article. His face turned from red to purple. He crumpled the paper in his fist. "Bill!" he yelled into his phone. "Get over here! Now!" An hour later, the green truck sped down Jasper's driveway, kicking up a cloud of dust. It didn't slow down. It screeched to a stop in front of the house. Jasper was waiting for them. He stood on the porch, the unfolded newspaper in his hand. He had been expecting this. He tapped his boot heel 3 times on the porch step, a quiet habit for courage. Hank and Bill jumped out. Hank stormed up to the porch, pointing a shaking finger at the paper in Jasper's hand. "You lying snake," Hank shouted, spittle flying from his mouth. "You went to the papers? You told them a bunch of fairy tales." "It's not a fairy tale," Jasper said. His voice was calm. He held out the paper. "It's the truth. It's all right here." Hank didn't even look at it. "The truth is you stole from us. You saw a valuable horse and you tricked us." "What did I trick you about?" Jasper asked. He took a step down from the porch. He was not hiding anymore. "You said he was useless. You said he was lazy. You sold him for $200. You were happy to be rid of him." "We didn't know," Bill said, his voice whiny. "We didn't know about no brand." "That's right," Jasper said, looking at Bill. "You didn't know, because you never cared for him enough to brush the dirt off his skin. You never looked." Hank's eyes darted toward the barn. "Where is he? He's ours. We're taking him." "No, you're not," Jasper said. He didn't raise his voice. He pulled a small piece of paper from his shirt pocket. It was a printout from Clara. It had the microchip number on it. "This is his identification number. It's in a national computer. It proves his name is Midnight Sun. It proves he was stolen a long time ago before you ever got him." He held the paper out toward Hank. Hank didn't take it. "You stole stolen property," Jasper continued. "If I call the sheriff right now, that's what I'll tell him. I'll show him this number. I'll show him the newspaper article. I'll tell him how you tried to break into my barn. Who do you think he'll believe?" Hank's bluster seemed to leak away. He stared at the printout. He looked at the newspaper. He looked at Jasper's face. Jasper wasn't scared. He was just stating facts. "You got no right," Hank mumbled, but the fight was gone from his voice. "I have every right," Jasper said. "The law is on my side. The truth is on my side. Now I want you to leave, and I don't want you to ever come back to my property. If I see your truck on my road, I will call the sheriff. Do you understand?" Bill was already backing toward their truck. "Come on, Hank. Let's just go. It's over." Hank stood there for a long moment, his jaw working. He looked at the barn one more time, a look of pure greed and loss on his face. Then he swore, turned around, and stomped back to the truck. He yanked the door open. "This ain't right, Reed. You'll see. A man like you can't hold on to luck like that." Jasper didn't answer. He just stood and watched. The green truck turned around and drove back down the driveway. This time it drove slowly. There was no roaring engine, no spinning gravel. It just left. Jasper stood on the porch until the dust settled. The silence that returned was different. It was a clean silence, a safe silence. He folded the newspaper and looked at the picture of himself and Dusty. The men were gone. The threats were over. The secret was a story for everyone now. He walked into the house and placed the newspaper on the table. He felt lighter than he had in years, as if a giant hand had let go of his shoulders. The first light of morning found Jasper Reed already in the barn. He poured grain into a bucket, the sound a comfortable, familiar crunch. Dusty stuck his head out of his stall and nickered, a deep, rumbling sound. I'm coming, Jasper said, a small smile touching his lips. He opened the stall door. Dusty did not rush to the food. Instead, he lowered his head and pushed his forehead gently against Jasper's chest, staying there for a moment before turning to his breakfast. Jasper leaned on the stall door and watched him eat. The fear was a distant memory. The silence of the ranch was no longer lonely. It was peaceful. Later that morning, a car pulled up. A woman and a young boy got out. They stood by their car, looking unsure. Jasper walked out to meet them. Can I help you? Are you Mr.? Reed? The woman asked. We read the story in the paper. My son here, he loves horses. We were just wondering, is it really him? Midnight Sun? Jasper looked at the boy, who was staring wide-eyed toward the barn. It's really him, but around here we call him Dusty. Could we just see him? From the fence? The boy asked, his voice full of hope. Jasper nodded. Sure, this way. He led them to the corral. Dusty was dozing in the sun. At the sound of voices, he lifted his head and ambled over. The boy gasped. Wow. You can give him this, Jasper said, pulling a carrot from his pocket. He showed the boy how to hold his hand flat. Dusty took the carrot gently, his lips tickling the boy's palm. The boy laughed. They only stayed for 10 minutes. As they left, the woman tried to hand Jasper some money. No, ma'am, he said, shaking his head. If you want to give something, there's a name on that article. The Charity for Rescued Horses. You can give it to them. She smiled, putting her money away. Thank you, Mr. Reed. He waved as they drove off. It happened maybe once or twice a week now. A few visitors. It was never a crowd. Jasper didn't mind. In the afternoon, Clara's white truck came up the drive. She got out, carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. Figured you could use some that wasn't 3 hours old, she said, handing him one. You figured right, Jasper said. They sat on the porch steps. Got a letter, Clara said after a sip. From the charity. They've received over $5,000 so far from the news stories. They thanked you. They said it'll help a lot of horses. Jasper nodded, looking out at his land. The money from the one big magazine story had already fixed the barn roof and paid off the bank. The rest, as he promised, was going away. It felt good. How's he doing? Clara asked, nodding toward Dusty, who was grazing nearby. He's good, happy. He still hates the smell of diesel, Jasper said with a quiet chuckle. Makes a face every time your truck pulls in. Clara laughed. Smart horse. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. It was easy with Clara. She didn't need to fill the space with talk. You ever miss it? She asked gently. The quiet before? When it was just you? Jasper thought about it. He thought about the long, empty days. The weight of every problem resting on only his shoulders. The quiet that felt like waiting for nothing. No, he said. And the truth of it was simple and solid. I don't miss it at all. After Clara left, Jasper finished his chores. He fixed the hinge on the tackroom door that had been broken for a year. He checked the water troughs. The work was the same, but the feeling was different. He was no longer just trying to stop things from falling apart. He was building something, taking care of something. As the sun set, painting the sky in colors of gold and pink, Jasper stood by the corral fence. Dusty came and stood beside him, resting his head on the top rail. Jasper reached up and scratched the spot behind the horse's ears. He looked at the brand on his leg, no longer hidden. It was just a part of him now, a part of his story. He had come to the auction with his last $200 looking for a tool to save his ranch. He had found a friend who had saved him instead. The ranch was secure. The fear was gone. He had a friend in Clara. He had a purpose. The greatest treasure was not in a bank. It was not a famous name or a golden trophy. It was right here, breathing softly beside him in the cool evening air. It was trust. It was companionship. It was coming home to someone who was happy to see you. Jasper Reed, the lonely cowboy, was not lonely anymore. He was home,